Jeff Van Gundy here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Jeff?
Good, Rich. How's everything?
I am doing just fine. How shocking do you think Game 3 was in this series?
Well, I don't think it's shocking that Toronto won. I think in the manner in which they dominated the game was unexpected. But, Toronto played well all year. They didn't play well in the first two games. They had some struggles in the playoffs at times. But when they've come home and they showed a good bounce-back ability, and they played an outstanding game.
So if Valanciunas can play tonight, what difference does he make?
Well, a healthy Valanciunas, an in-rhythm Valanciunas, would be a big help. I'm not sure what this Valanciunas is going to look like after having not played, not practiced. I think that's hard to say. I'll be interested to see how many minutes they play, what matchups they put him against. And I'm more worried about him defensively, that mobility against, the pick-and-roll games of Kyrie Irving and James. And, is he going to have to close to Channing Frye to the three-point line? Those, to me, are all big concerns. And it'll be interesting to see how much he plays and who he plays against.
Jeff Van Gundy joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Tyronn Lue said the day after that he should have called more plays for LeBron. Would you agree with that?
Listen, the easiest coaching to do is after the game, because whatever you did in a loss, you can second guess, and there are many other people that join in on that and second guess. But one thing I think you'll see is that there'll be a healthy amount of what they call drop plays, meaning they're going to come down, Kevin Love entry to James, space out their three shooters, Tristan Thompson working the baseline, and making Toronto make the difficult decision of do they double, and if so, when do they double, and then who can they live with shooting the ball. And certainly J.R. Smith, that's one of the ways in which he gets open behind the three-point line.
Jeff Van Gundy joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. If you're in the NBA front office, do you find LeBron for flopping from that Tristan Thompson elbow that he thought DeMarre Carroll was the one who delivered? Would you do that?
See, I have no problem. That one he did get hit in the face. Whether who hit him was in dispute, but I don't think it was in dispute that he got hit. And I'm not sure there's a natural reaction you're supposed to have when you get hit in the face. But the Biombo foul, in which they called a flagrant, which I couldn't disagree with more, I thought he exaggerated the contact there. I thought he exaggerated the contact on the Lowry third foul on the rebound. So, listen, the flopping to me, you need to punish. And in the playoffs where every possession is more magnified and the ramifications are more severe, it should be punished harder. So I think in the regular season they fine guys $5,000. In the playoffs it's 10. They usually don't fine unless it's really a bad flop. So I'm not sure if he'll get fined, but I have no problem if they do.
Now, Dwayne Casey got popped for criticizing the officials after Game 3. And I think that if the league is able to evaluate the officiating in the last 2 minutes of the game in the manner that they've been doing it, they should allow coaches to be as honest as possible about the officiating in the last 2 minutes of the game without the threat of a fine. What do you think, Jeff Van Gundy? What do you think of that idea?
That's very interesting. I've not heard that suggestion. I think the league wants transparency from everybody but the coaches and the players in regards to officiating. I think they feel that it's okay if they judge their officials, but no one else is allowed to. And I understand their point, but I also understand from a coach's point of view, some of these calls can make the difference between winning and losing, advancing and not. And also, frankly, from a coach's standpoint, keeping your job or losing your job. So I understand when a guy like Dwayne Casey is critical. Now, frankly, I don't think, you very rarely see the winning coach complain. And I thought that was an interesting psychological thought process, because he didn't go in there out of emotion. He went in there, very calculated in what he was saying. And I'm not so sure that game. I thought the game was fairly well officiated. I think there's isolated calls in any game that you can look at and pick at. But in that game, I thought it was a well officiated game. But I don't think he did it for Game 3. I think he's trying to do it coming into Game 4.
Well, and in that regard, both Steve Kerr and Draymond Green seem to use the podium to get their point of view out in front of the NBA Justice League, that the flagrant foul that Green might be suspended for should be rescinded. Where do you stand on that subject, Jeff?
Again, I thought it was great psychological strategy, because if they just say they don't think he should be suspended, then it comes down to either Oklahoma City gets what they think should happen, which is suspension, or Golden State gets what they think should happen, which is not suspension. By saying it should be rescinded, I think the psychological play there was, well, if we just leave it like it is at flagrant 1, then nobody gets what they want. I think, listen, flagrant fouls, I really don't know anymore what they are. But they're supposed to be judged not on intent. It's all on wind-up, impact, follow-through, and what was it a normal basketball play or not? And so if you judge that play, and that's a flagrant 1, even after review, and you judge Biyombo's play, which was judged a flagrant 1 where there was no wind-up, no impact, and no follow-through, or very little impact, you can't have the punishments be the same thing. I'm interested to see if they protect, everybody's very sensitive about shots above the shoulder to the head. I'm wondering now if they're going to protect the family jewels of these players as much as they protect the headshots. Because if they do, to me, it's not even a hard decision. You're not trying to judge intent. It was an unnatural basketball movement. It was a hard impact. I think it's going to get a suspension. And I think when you're suspending guys in playoffs, you have to be absolutely sure that it's suspension worthy. I think the worst thing you can do is taint a playoff series by a 50-50, it could have gone either way, suspension. In this case, I don't even think it's a hard call, particularly when you put it up against them just suspending Dante Jones of the Cavaliers for his late groin shot to Bismack Biyombo.
Well, I mean, don't you think he got the game because he's not Draymond Green? Don't you think there's no question that's the way it worked? Jeff?
No, I don't think it's that. Listen, I think the Warriors actually caught a bad break in that game. If it would have been judged what I think everybody's going to say is, in retrospect, that it should have been judged a flagrant 2. And he was thrown out of that game, I don't think they then suspend him for Game 4, saying that he already missed the game. They don't want to make it the equivalent of a 2-game suspension. Mm-hmm. Because he wasn't ejected in Game 3, I think that actually hurts the Warriors' case. And I think that's why he will be suspended for Game 4. And I don't think it's going to matter in this case, because I think when you judge it by their criteria, it's a no-brainer. It's not a hard decision. I don't think it'll be hotly debated. I really don't even think there's much of an argument when you look at how they judge these things. But I'm not a fan of how they judge them. I'm just saying by how they judge them.
Jeff Van Gundy joining me here in the couple minutes I have with you left. So you would say the Warriors are in deep trouble, basically, right now, as the way things are working out. Okay.
No, listen, they faced this last year twice, being down 2-1 to much less talented teams in Memphis and at that time Cleveland without Kyrie or Kevin Love. So I'm sure they have urgency, but they have not. I mean, this is going to be a hard team to beat 4 times. I think Oklahoma City, obviously, games 1 and 3 has played terrific. They got dominated in the second game. I'm actually as much interested in how Oklahoma City responds as I am in Golden State. Oftentimes when you win, you subconsciously soften up a bit. And it's imperative for Oklahoma City to remain and maintain that hard edge coming off the blowout that they had in Game 2. Hard to do, though.
So, and I also like your take on Draymond Green in terms of suspension during the playoffs and how it's a no-brainer, especially since, you once lost Ewing, Allen Houston, and Charlie Ward just because somebody put a toe on the floor during an Eastern Conference semifinal. Right, Coach?
Yeah, listen,
right?
Listen. Some of our guys deserve to be suspended.
Yeah.
Ewing didn't, but that's what I'm saying. If it's a no-brainer, they should be suspended. But if you have any doubt in your mind, and I think this is where Adam Silver gets great respect from the players, because I think the players feel that he has their best interest in mind as a group more than ever before. And so you may not like an individual decision, but it would be a really difficult thing to say that this commissioner, at this point in time of his commissionership, doesn't have the players' best interests at heart. I think he's proven that time and time again.
A couple more for you, Jeff. I appreciate the time you've given me. Why do you think Patrick Ewing has not gotten more of a look for head coaching vacancies? He got a look by the Grizzlies. Why do you think Patrick isn't getting the look-see for the head job?
Well, he interviewed this year with Sacramento, and Vlade Divac gave him great feedback, a really positive feedback about how good his interview was. He went to Memphis, and I think they were impressed. So I think it's important that he get these interviews to show just how far he's come in coaching. This is a man, think about it, Rich, has any top 25 player ever been an assistant for 13 years? Mm-hmm. And the answer is no. I mean, this guy has put in his time. I do believe, and he's learned and he's grown and he's gotten better. I do believe there is a big man bias. And I think he's feeling the brunt where the bias is that guards are the smart ones and the big guys just do, the grunt work inside. And having coached a lot of great players, having the fortune, being fortunate to coach a lot of great players, no one had a better basketball IQ than Patrick Ewing. Great job at knowing defensive coverages, game plans, being a play ahead. And so I think the more he gets a chance to interview, more and more people will see just how he's dedicated himself to this craft like he did his playing days. And I think it's just a matter of time before some really wise general manager says, I'll be the one to hire him. And I guarantee whoever does that is going to be looked upon as one very smart general manager.
And lastly, what about you? Would you have been up for a reunion with the Knicks? Would you have been up for something like that, Jeff?
In general, coaching, does interest me. I interviewed for Minnesota, and I didn't get that one. I was interested in Houston, but they weren't interested. And so it's really a case-by-case basis. It's really important. And Phil Jackson, I think, has said this, and I think it is critical that the coach and the management have alignment, not in every view, but have generally the same vision. I think they've hired or I don't think it's official yet, but I think they're going to hire an outstanding coach in Jeff Hornacek. Now, his record may not be where you'd say, hey, that's an outstanding hire, but I think every situation is so different that you can't judge coaches just on record. So much of your record is based on your roster. In his first year, I think universally they overachieved. Everybody would say that. And then they had some roster turmoil where they had too many point guards, which hurt chemistry and hurt their play. Then they had some injuries. And then the first part of last season, or this past regular season, he was saddled with some incredible chemistry issues. So I think it's going to be a very good hire by Phil Jackson. I think they see the game similarly, which I think is vital if you're going to have long-term success.
Jeff, thanks for the time. Really enjoy listening to you with Mark Jackson and Breen on ESPN, and I'd love to have you back on during the finals.
Anytime, Rich. Take care.
You bet. Thank you. That's Jeff Van Gundy.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.